Okay, so in this video, we're going to be looking at capital budgeting, but we're going to do a deep dive into payback periods. In this video, we're going to look at 3 exam-like payback period questions. The first one is going to serve as an introduction to give you all the tools and resources that you will need to understand the material. Then the second question will really seem like an easy exam-like question. And the third one will be a hard exam-like question in which we're going to be dealing with a growing annuity. So really in this video, you will have all the tools necessary to understand how to do this on an exam. And I know I tend to talk a lot or I can be annoying, so don't hesitate to use the timestamps and just carry forward. From this, you'll be able to solve any exam-like problems on your final exam. If you're an undergrad, taking an intro to finance course, or an MBA, kind of dealing with your first finance class ever, or even a level 1 CFA. So with that said, use this document, work through this with me. We're going to be looking at 3 exam-like problems to really build a comprehensive view on capital budgeting, but more especially on the payback period. So let's go straight into it. The first question, will be as follows. So suppose that Shy Design wants to open a new architectural division in Tokyo. However, the CEO seems unsure of the viability of this project, and the project will have the following cash flows. So an initial investment of $415,000. Okay. So we could go ahead and say that your initial investment, your CF0, will simply be like this. Your first cash flow on year 1 will be $145,000. And on year 2, it'll be $192,500. And year 3, $270,000. So overall, now we're able to identify that this is a 3-year project, pretty straightforward, with an initial investment of $450,000. Not bad. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight our mission. What is the purpose of this question? And this question, they want you, to solve for the simple and discounted payback period of the project. All right. And we're going to assume that the discount rate, so the opportunity cost, the required rate of return of the firm of Shy Designs, is equal to 10.28%. Now, before we proceed and before I explain and give you an introduction to what the payback period is, I'm a big fan of let's try to highlight the information we have and just define them. What do we have here? What does it mean? And let's try to perhaps put it into a, something that's visual and easy to digest here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to make this easier for me to annotate. And I think I'm going to reduce the sound of my little Lofi in the background for my own mental sanity. So like that is perfect. Now, we know that the initial investment of $415,000 is going to be our CF0. So that's awesome. We know that $145,000 will be our payment at year 1. We could go ahead and go here. We know that $192,500 will be our payment at year 2. And then, of course, $270,000 here will be our payment at year 3. Basic stuff. And then finally, our discount rate is 10.28%. So we know our K is equal to 10.28%. So that's awesome. We already have a few little pieces of information that could help us. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you an introduction to what the payback period is and why does it matter. The term payback period it's pretty straightforward. We want to know, when will this investment pay you back? In this case, we have an original investment of an initial cash outflow of $415,000. And we want to know, well, this project, of course, if we're going to invest in one, it has to pay us back. And we want to know how much time will it take for us to be able to recoup, to receive our original investment back. And I'm going to visualize this for you in 2 ways. 2 amazing ways that you could use on your exam to make sense of these questions. But I would like to let you know the key takeaway here. What does a payback period matter? Why do we look at that? Well, if you're going to invest in a project, ideally, you're investing in a project to make some money. Ideally, is to make more money than what you had to invest in that project. And even ideally, is to make that money back as fast as possible. And in this case, the payback period will let us know, well, how much time does it take you to receive your money back? Will it take you 2 years, 3 years, 4.5 years, 55 years, 65 years. Those are all key components to making a decision when deploying capital, when deploying money. You will probably do the same thing, right? When you, I don't know, you decide to start your own business, right? That's something that you may look at. And big companies, typically, ideally, they look at that as well. How quickly will a project be rentable for us? Now, what we could do is we're going to start by visualizing this simple question into two different methods. Okay, the first one is the classic time value of money approach, in which we create a timeline. Then the second one will be the table method, in which we're going to tabulate the data and look at a few columns to help us and assist us in finding the payback period. Now, notice that I just talked right so far about the simple payback period, whereas a discounted payback period is very simple. It's the same notion, it's the same idea, but we're going to be looking at the discounted cash flows, okay? It's another tool that one could use to understand whether the discounted cash flows of this project will be able to recoup our initial investment and how much time will it take to get there. The reason why this method is viable is because we understand this, that when we looked at this in chapter 5 in the time value of money chapter, but we understand that money received tomorrow may not be as valuable as money today. I mean, if I give you $10 million 1,000 years from now, well, you don't care about that. You're going to be dead, you know, right? It's going to be the 10 million generation of yours that's going to get that money. But if I give you money, call it 2 years from now, well, maybe then the value of that $1 million still holds. Okay, so that notion of time value of money is important, and that's why we're going to apply that notion as well when we're looking at these two different categories of the payback period: simple method and then the discounted method. Now, enough of that spiel. Let's go ahead and draw our timeline just to build that little intuition, visualize the problem, and then we're going to move ahead towards our table, which is going to be essentially how we're going to solve this easy question. Alrighty, so let's zoom in. Just going to get myself prepared here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to, you know, make this a little bit easier for me in terms of just writing stuff in. So let's go ahead and build our timeline. Okay. I'll even zoom in a little bit more. Now, I'm assuming that you're looking at the description below, that you went on my website, and that you grabbed, you know, this question, or that you took a screenshot, that you're pausing the video. So I know that you have the question with you as well. So what you have on screen right now, it's a timeline. You have T0 all the way to T3. Of course, T stands for a point in time. And in this case, the point in time, or the points in time that we're looking at, are years. So we have year 0, year 1, year 2, year 3. I'm going to go ahead and highlight year 0 in red, just because we're going to look at our original investment. Okay, so here we're going to have our original investment. So this is today. Right, this is where your initial investment will come into play. In this case, our original investment, I'm going to take a second just to grab the question such that I have it in front of me on my left. Let me just grab that, 2 seconds, such that I'm able to have it on both sides. Perfect. But yeah, so in this case, we know that our original investment is going to be something along the lines of, I don't know, like 250 grand. I could be totally wrong. It's 415 grand. So we're going to put this right here as being $415,000. And we know, I could put this in green because these are cash inflows. We're going to have $145,000 at year 1. We'd have 192,500 at year 2. And we know that we're going to receive 270,000 at year 3. Okay, so the idea here of the payback period is to figure out, well, when, I'll put this, I guess, in another color, when will the sum of these cash flows be greater, in this case actually equal, to our original investment? How much time will it take us to be able to recoup this money, this set of cash that we had to invest on year 0? We notice quickly that, okay, Well, after 2 years, after not even that, after 1 year, we're still going to have a lot of money left. We're still going to be in the minus. After 2 years, if you just round this up to call it 200,000, we still only have like call it 345K that we made on this project. So we still weren't able to pay off our original investment. However, after 3 years, if we round this up to 200K, we have 345,000, we notice that we're going to be able to surpass our original investment of $415,000. And this is a lot of money that we have here, right? This is a lot of money. So what we really want to figure out is at what point within or in between, if anything, but in between year 2 and year 3, were you able to make your money, right? That's what we care about. At what point in between those two years, okay, were you able to make your money back? We don't want you to answer between year 2 and year 3. We want to know the exact specific point. Is it at, call it 2.2 years? Or is it at 2.8 years? When was it that you received your money? And that's what the payback period method will showcase, okay? And this is when we're going to jump into our table. So this is just a really cute and easy way to visualize what's going on, because we noticed that we were going to be able to recoup our original investment in between year 2 and year 3. I hope that's fair. By using the tabulation method, we're going to be able to do this like fairly quickly and fairly easily. So how do we go about using the tabulation method? What are the key things that you need to add into this little table? Now, of course, if you're super quick with it on an exam, go for it. Skip these steps. But once again, this is a method really made for students to have a comprehensive view on what is required here. So let's go ahead and build this table. All right, so I'm going to drop a few rows. I mean, a few columns. Sorry about that. And space. Okay. And then I'm going to zoom in again such that you really have like a nice perspective of what's going on. So on our first column, we're going to have the years. In this case, we know that we're only looking at a few years. So I could go ahead and copy this, paste. I could put this like this. So we're going to have year 0. Go ahead and put another one. We're going to have year 1. I'm going to put another one like that. So we're going to have every single year that we looked at. So year 1, year 2, and year 3. Then we're going to look at the cash flow that was made at that year. So for this question, I guess I'll write it as being the payment. Then what I want to look at is I want to look at the sum of all those payments. I want to look at how much total money did we make. The reason why we want to look at how much total money you made on this project is because we want to figure out, well, hey, when is the sum of the cash flows that you generated from this project greater than the original investment? Because we know that the year that we pass that amount, we know that we're going to be able to figure out, well, it's between, call it in this case, year 2 and year 3. You'll see what I mean in just a second. And then I have some space for another column that you can choose to do afterwards. It's really up to you. You'll see why it matters. So in this case, once again, I'm like a broken record, but I just really want to be comprehensive for you. So we're going to go ahead and I'll put this in green. So our original investment here, I guess I'll continue with the streak of red and green. Our original investment in this case is minus 415K. All right, so we have minus 415K. Then we're going to have in green, because I want to be super comprehensive, we're going to have 145K. Then in year 2, we're going to have 192.5K. And in year 3, we're going to have 270K. So, of course, the sum of your payments at, call it year 0, well, you didn't make any payments, right? You didn't receive any cash flows yet. So it's null, there's nothing here. And after 1 year, the sum of all of the payments that you received is equal to 145K. And after 2 years, what's going to be equal to, I hope that's super clear, it's going to be equal to essentially this and this, right? You're going to add these two together. So the sum of your cash flows after year 2 will be equal to 337.5K. So Why is this important for us? Why am I looking at this? Well, because you realize that $337,000-ish is not greater than $415,000. So you weren't able to recoup all of your money just yet. And because of that, you didn't pay back your original investment yet. And because of that, your payback period is definitely not before year 2. Okay, a few takeaways here. Now, what's awesome is that you realize after year 3, okay, if you add all of your cash flows together, you're going to get something around the lines of 607.5K. Now, bells should be ringing, right? Because now you realize that, okay, this is definitely greater than our original investment. This is definitely greater than our original investment. So we know that between year 2 and year 3, we were able to surpass our original investment. Okay, so we could go ahead and maybe highlight this here. Okay, so essentially, sum of your payments are greater than your original investment. So just like that, okay, you are able to surpass your original investment, and we know that it's going to be between year 2 and year 3. So how do we figure out, okay, well, at what point are we? Is it 2.2 years in? Is it 2.5 years in? Is it 2.8 years in? Well, there's a really easy tactic to go about this. Once you figure out in which year gap, you've surpassed your original investment, or that you are able to recoup your total amount of money, all that you got to do is do the following, okay? So this is an easy trick, and I hope that it's clear for all of you. We know that after 2 years, so now I'll use a different color, we'll use this one. We know that after 2 years, we have this as our sum of all of our cash flows that we made on this project. So in other words, we could also look at, well, how much are we missing, right? How much, so I'll go like this. I always fail to draw my little arrow properly. It's like Isma Helps character. Like, it's like one of my traits. Hopefully I get it now. There you go. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to make my notes cute such that afterwards you're able to review them effectively. So we know that after year 2, okay, we still have some money left to be able to say that we pay back our original investment. And we clearly see within this table that at year 3, we definitely paid our original investment back. So it's definitely something between year 2 and year 3. Now, a really good trick here is to say, well, how much is remaining? To pay back our CF0 after year blank. In this case, the year that we care about is year 2, because we understood that, hey, it's happening between year 2 and year 3. So the trick right here, it's not even a trick, just simple math that you're going to apply is going to be as follows. What you're going to do is you're going to do this. Okay, so you're going to do CF0 minus the sum of your cash flows, in this case, well, of your payments, at year 2. Okay, so in this case, you're going to have $415,000 minus 337,000.5K, or I mean 337.5K. And if you do your math, you're going to notice that the difference between the two is 77,500. That's how much we're missing to be able to pay back our original investment, right? For our original investment to be equal to the sum of all the cash flows we made into this project. And now the reason why this is awesome is because we also know that, well, we're making $270,000 in year 3, right? That's how much cash flows we're going to be making from this project in year 3. But what's awesome is that you could actually say, well, assuming that every single dollar is equally distributed within the year. So throughout the 365 days, or call it 12 months or 52 weeks, assuming that they're equally distributed throughout the year, you could say, well, okay, well, technically, I only need $77,500 from that $270,000 that I'm making year 3 to be able to meet my initial investment. So what we're going to do is this. All right. What you're going to do, and I'll find some space to do it, I guess right here. You're simply going to do this. You're going to do 500 divided by the total cash flow you made on year 3. Okay. And that's going to give us the amount of time within year 2 and year 3 that we need here. Okay. So if you do the math, 77,500 divided by 270,000, you're going to get 0.2870. So we could go ahead and write this as being 0.28703. And the reason why this number is super crucial is because that's showing us, well, how much of that entire year do we need, right? To be able to say, okay, we paid our initial investment. So if we go back to our previous little timeline, I'm so sorry. Well, if we were to zoom in, once again, sorry for zooming in too much, we will notice, if we want to visualize this, that we only needed, call it this amount of the year. This is the only portion of the year that we needed to be able to pay back our original investment. Because we know that assuming that the cash flows are equally distributed, that at 2.20, call it 28, almost 703 years, we know that we paid off. Our CFO, our original investment is paid off. That's what the payback period is really all about. It's figuring out, well, at what time between these 2 years, did we make our money back, assuming that everything is equally distributed? Now, I mentioned that we could use a different portion of this call it table, or of this table, to be able to do this a little bit quicker. So what you could do as well, now I wouldn't necessarily do it on an exam because you may not have the time, but you could add another column, and that's going to be the balance column, in which you'll figure out what's your balance every single year, and it may be easier to get to this number, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. Okay, so let's zoom in. And then don't you worry, we're going to tackle the whole discounted method as well. So we're going to have the balance. We're going to do this. It's right here. So the balance, of course, I'll put it in red up until there's no balance. The balance after 1 year, in order for you to be able to recoup your money, is $415,000. After 0 years, sorry, after 1 year, right, you're gonna have 270K that's left to pay off in order to be able to recoup your entire investment. But then look at that, our balance in this case after 2 years will be equal to 77.5K, and that's exactly the amount we have here. So you can use that method, to go about it. And of course, at year 3, you're going to have no balance because you went above your 415 grand, but you get the little notion here. So that's one way to go about it. The balance method is another way to kind of just pinpoint it, make it easier for you, visualize it. I always do it when I practice for my exams, or when I was practicing for these exams, and when I'm making these questions, because it's a comprehensive view. You want to be slow when you're studying, because slow is smooth. Then once you're able to be smooth with it, you'll be fast. So that's a notion, okay? You don't want to skip some steps. Now that we have this, we understand what our payback period is. In this case, I hope it's extremely clear. It's 2, right? I'll highlight this in another color, I guess in green. It's 2 plus our 0.28 type of thing, 0.29, could round it up, so it's you. So that's going to be our payback period, okay? So that's important. Now we're going to look at our discounted payback period, okay? And the discounted payback period is very, very, very straightforward. I'm going to try to find a little place on the screen that we could use to perhaps go about doing this. I don't know if I have too much space. I guess we'll just keep it on the same one. It's whatever, you know. So I'll just move a few things so that it's a little bit easier to work through. So by the way, what's awesome with YouTube is that you can skip my nonsense at any time. You don't have to deal with me too much. Okay, so that's great news. Then this, I can make it smaller. Then we can move this a little bit. That's awesome. So I'm just gonna move a few things. I guess it's the lofi music that's getting me on my loaf vibe. No pun intended. Okay, so that should be a little bit better. If anything, we could maybe move these things a little bit more. Like here. Yeah, it's getting better. It's getting cleaner. Cool. Okay. So I'm sure you skipped this part. But now that we have this, we're going to go ahead and make our discounted cash flow method kind of work for us. Our discounted cash flow, our discounted payback period method work for us. It's very straightforward. And then honestly, all that we're going to do is we're going to add a simple step. We're going to look at the discounted cash flows. It's really as easy as that. That's the only nuance. Okay, it doesn't get complicated. And honestly, once you understand the first step, it just gets easier. So that's awesome news. All right. So it just gets easier. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same thing. But now we need to understand, not even assume, we need to understand, okay, that these cash flows, well, they need to be discounted. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to write DPMT for a discounted payment. All right. And I guess we're going to copy this here, such that we have another one here. And then you're just going to redo the steps. You're going to have the sum of your discounted payments or your discounted cash flows. You can call it however you want. And then you're going to have the balance, right? If you want to go so far and add it, it's really up to you. So it's the same steps. This is awesome stuff. And I'm sure you're like, you know what, Ismail, or Ismail helps, whatever you want to call it. This is easy. Okay, I don't need to worry about it too much. If I see this on an exam, I'm equipped with the tools to do this effectively, do this simply. So we're going to go ahead and write this as being the sum of the discounted payments. Here we're going to have really the balance. That's all we need. Okay, so in this case, oh, I'm so sorry that I skipped a few pages. That's on me. My bad. Sorry about that. It happens in a few videos where I press the text button by accident. You know, some skills, you know, it's just some things never change. Okay. So what's awesome with this method is that we know, all right, like it's clear to us that our cash, right, at year one, I want to highlight the years. At year 0 is minus 415. That's pretty clear. But now you got to solve, okay? You got to solve for a discounted cash flow method. Now, how are you going to find these discounted cash flow methods? Well, I'm going to write a little note here. Okay. For you to find this discounted cash flow, all that you're going to do is you're going to do payment at the year over 1 plus k to the power of the year. So I'll give you an example. I'm only going to do it for 1 year as an example. The rest you should be able to calculate. If you got this far into your course, this should be a walk in the park. And if not, you're lucky. There's a bunch of videos out there that will be able to help you out. So if we take, for example, the payment at year 1, right? So I'll write payment 1 over 1 plus k to the power of 1. You're going to get, all right, in this case, it was 145,000 over 1.1028. In this case, the power of 1. Okay, it's as easy as that. Now, if you plug that in, and I'm going to make sure that it's my first time doing the question, so I always want to make sure that I'm doing it okay. It should be fine though. 10.28. Yeah, okay. So if you plug that in, all right, you should be able to get 131,483.5. All right, so that's going to be your discounted payment at that time. All right, such that a definition, if you're looking at the sum of your payments, of your discounted payments, right, you would have the same amount. So I could go ahead and write that. So that's awesome. The balance portion, I'll do it at the end. If I was doing this quickly on an exam, I wouldn't have to run through that. So of course, if we're looking at year 2, then we're going to put payment 2 here, and then this will be to the power of 2. I hope that's clear. In this case, our payment at year 2 is 192,500. So I'm going to go ahead and move this a little bit such that you have the years and it's still pretty clear to you, because I know that sometimes I could be going fast. Such that this cash flow that we have at year 2, we're going to discount it by 10.28% for 2 years. We're going to get the amount 158,000, sorry, 284.07. And then because of that, the sum of our cash flows will be equal to 289,767.57. All right. Now, if we look at our discounted cash flow payment for year 3, well, in this case, we're going to take $278,000. So $270,000, we're going to discount it to 1.1028 to the power of 3, and that's going to give us another discounted cash flow. We're going to have 201,313.77, and then this is where the magic happens. We're going to have $491,000.081.34. So this is awesome news, because once again, you notice that, I'll highlight it here in yellow, you notice that this amount, well, hey, it's greater than $415,000, which is our initial investment. So we know that, once again, I'm sorry why I got excited here. My bad, my apologies. We know that if I highlight this here, okay, we know, so I'll put it like this, that our sum of our discounted payments will be greater than CF0. I guess greater than or equal to, because these both those statements they hold between year 2 and 3. So that's awesome. And now it becomes a game of the classic. Well, we were at 289,767.57 at year 2. We were able, as being the sum of our cash flows. And we noticed that we got to 491,000 at year 3. But we were only missing, right, a little portion of that entire cash flow we made, right? We're only missing a little portion of that entire cash flow that's discounted for year 3. So what you're going to do is you're going to do the same method that we have on our left here. So we're going to do CF0 minus the sum of your payments at year 2. And that's going to give you a specific amount. If I'm being efficient, I believe your amount should be somewhere along the lines of minus 125,000 or just being $125,000, something like that. So here you could go ahead and write 125,232.43. So that's the entire amount of cash, I guess, that we're missing after year 2 in order to be able to recoup our initial investment through our discounted cash flows. Now you notice what we need to do now is simple. We're just going to go here and we're going to do 125,232.43 over the cash flow of year 3 that was discounted. So over 201.313.7, and you're going to get the difference of these two is equal to 622,075,812. And this is an amazing takeaway. So if I were to write the whole discounted payback period, it would be something like this. Okay, that'd be our entire discounted payback period. Now, before I do the whole balance method to really showcase why this is like an eureka moment, as we would say, this is awesome because if we go back to our timeline, we now notice that, well, if it's discounted, right, it's going to take a little bit more time. Instead of just 2.28, it's going to take us all up until here, right, 2.62 for us to be able to recoup our money. And that's really interesting because it leads us to another takeaway. It leads us to the notion that, well, if we're discounting cash flows under the premise that money tomorrow is worth less than money today, well, of course, it's going to take us more time to retrieve our original investment because these cash flows that were equal to $145,000 at year one, $270,000 at year three, well, of course, they're worth less to us because we're discounting them. Because we're discounting them, it's going to take us more time to be able to recoup our original investment. And for that reason, it's a rule, okay, that a discounted payback period will always be longer than the payback period. And within these two like examples, you're able to really like see that, okay? So hopefully this helps you out. And before we proceed to the next question, I'm going to take 2 seconds to just, fill up the table with you and that you understand and that we have a little bit of a conversation on what's going on. And then for the next question, that we're going to plug it into this video, although a long video, you're really going to get a comprehensive view on what's up. So, this is fun stuff. This is cool stuff. So of course, your balance here is going to be 415K. Then after year one, well, your balance will be essentially minus 283,516. This is rounded up, by the way, just because I'm a lazy person. You got $125,000 here, 0.232 or 3. So notice how these two numbers are the same. It's pretty crazy. And of course, here, we're not going to have anything because they just don't matter. Okay, so that's awesome stuff. And then I guess if I were to really be super duper like, hardcore on my formatting, is I'll stop it here. Just because why not, I want to make it as nice as it could potentially be on this beautiful Thursday or Wednesday, whatever day we are. Cool. So take a step back. We noticed that, listen, the payback period questions are actually pretty logical. You want to figure out when are you making your money back. It's as easy as that. Now, for sure, it's a long process. And there's no ways to skip it. You won't find a method on your calculator up until now, I haven't found it, that's going to allow you to figure out, well, hey, when are you getting your money back? I haven't found it yet. And I don't really believe that that's probably the best way to go about it. You want to take your time. You want to be able to do it efficiently, effectively, and just be able to run through it, okay? So we're going to jump into the next payback period question. That's a little bit more complicated because it deals with multiple cash flows, but these cash flows will be the same. So if you go on to the next page, sorry about that, at page 27, within this doc, you're going to be able to see another question, still with Shy Designs, but now she wants to go in Monaco. Look at that. And we're going to just, solve it, work through it together, identify all the pieces. But now that you know why we're doing this, of course, not going to be as slow. We're going to go a little bit faster. And of course, you could refer to the first bit of this video as a piece of reference on what to do. So hopefully that guides you a little bit. So suppose that Shy Design wants to open a new architectural division in Monaco. However, the CEO seems unsure of the viability of this project. And the CEO, she knows that there's an initial investment of $250,000, which is crazy, and after-tax cash flows of $85K per year until the end of year 6. We want to know, and we're going to highlight this in red, it's our tradition, what is the simple and discounted payback period, okay, of this firm, if we know that the discount rate is 10.28%. So far, so good. Now these are like easy reps for us. What we're going to do though, as per usual, And you should always do this. Highlight the information provided in the question. So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. What we're gonna do is just that. And I'm sorry, my nose is a little bit runny, so I may be gross sometimes and do because for some reason it's hot outside. It's like middle of summer and I'm feeling sick. I don't know. So our initial investment will be, in this case, if we highlight it here, 250K. So you could go ahead and say that, okay, CF0 is equal to $250,000. And remember that under the payback period, we always want to figure out, well, hey man, when are you making your money back? You know what I'm saying? How much time will it take you? So now we can go ahead and look at our after-tax cash flows. We know that our after-tax cash flows will be equal to $85,000 per year, all right, until the end of year 6, which is awesome. So in this case, you know that your payment, okay, from 1 to payment 6 will be equal to $85,000. It's awesome news. Pretty cool, pretty straightforward. You won't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. Okay. And the discount rate of the firm is equal to 10.28%. So that's awesome as well. Now, what's cool here is that I'm going to run through this because this is an easy version of it. Yet this has been on past exams, not this exact question, but something's within the same thread. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build a quick, easy, very simple timeline just because I want to be able later to visualize, well, hey, when is our payback period? And perhaps when you study, it'll be a really good active recall. It'll visualize things. It'll make it more human for you. So that's why I'm going to take the time to do it. Now, once again, always, you could for sure skip through this. If you're good, if you're amazing at it, you don't need to listen to my boring spiels. I know that they get annoying at times. So we're going to have T0, T equals 1, T equals 2, T equals 3, T equals 4, T equals 5. Move this up a little bit. Get T equals 6. All right. And we're just going to draw the cash flows just for you to really get a sense of what's going on. So we're going to have minus 250K. And then we're going to have 85K every single year. Just got to scratch my eye real quick. It's a little bit ishy. But yeah, you're going to have 85K up until year 6. And we just want to figure out, with that said, well, hey, what are our cash flows like, right? And when are we going to be able to make our initial investment back? Okay, so with that, I'm going to jump right in and build our little table. It's going to be useful for us here, okay? And what's awesome here is that you quickly notice, if you do some basic math, that 85 times 3 is going to give you $255,000. So already there, you know that it's going to take us between year 2 and year 3 to recoup our initial investment under the simple payback period basis. So that's super straightforward, very easy to do. But then it gets a little bit more interesting when we use our discounted cash flow method. All right. So at this point, that should be pretty evident to you, right? We have a very small initial investment, yet we have high cash flows, right? So that should be pretty clear. So we're going to go ahead and build this up. I guess I'll move this a little bit. Oops. I guess we'll put it here. Yeah, cool. So we're going to have this as being years. Here we're going to have our cash flows. Notice how I'm writing it differently now. I hope that doesn't throw you off. I just, it's good for you to have a lot of different exposures because on an exam, you may have different exposures to different things. People from different schools will call these payments, others will call these cash flows, others will call this inflows. It's all the same thing. So here we're going to have the sum of our cash flows. We're going to begin with that. Okay, we're going to go with that. And then I'm going to just copy a few things. Then I'll do this. Actually, there's probably a more efficient way of going about this. Do this. Then choose these three. Place them right here. Cool. So let's go ahead and kind of just write our years. We'll start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, on an exam, if you're sharp, you would notice that sometimes you don't need to write every single year because you don't need to go that far. And you'll see what I mean by that in just a second. In this case, I really don't think that we need to go past year 5. That's just my little gut feeling. But maybe I'm wrong. I know I'm not wrong. We're not going to have to pass it. But yeah, this is just me making small talk as I format something that you're going to use later on. Okay, so now we have our cash flows and the sum of our cash flows. We could even look at our balance. Why not? We could go ahead and copy this one. Cool. Okay, so let's look at these things. We just go up a little bit. Look at that. How awesome is this? We know that our initial investment, so our CF0 is equal to 250K, right? We know that our sum of our cash flows, well, we don't have any cash flows yet at that point. We know that our balance at that year will be equal to $250,000, just like that. Then we could look at our cash flows that we are making. We have 85K here, such that the sum of our cash flows is equal to 85K. And if we look at the balance at that time, it'll be equal to 165,000 minus 165,000 if you will. And what I'm going to do is just to be efficient and not to have to change colors every single time. We know we have 85K here. We're going to go ahead and write that the sum of our cash flows will be 170K. We have 85K here for year 3. Then we're going to have 255K. And look at that. Already, we notice that our balance will not exist anymore. We notice that this is happening between year 2 and year 3. We notice that we're going to be able to recoup our original investment between year 2 and year 3, because look at that. We don't have any more balance. We don't have a difference anymore. We were able to recoup our original investment between those 2 years. It's really as easy as that. Now, if I were to write our balance at year 2, we would be missing 80K. So by now, I'm going to do a little tour de passe-passe. And all that you're going to need to do is I'm actually going to write it on the right, so it's simple. We know that we're missing 80K, right, after year 2. And we know we made 85K during year 3. So all that you're going to do to figure out, well, how much time did it actually take us? It's going to be very simple, very straightforward. What you're going to do is this. You're going to do the balance over the payment. And that's going to give you 80K divided by 85K. That should give you 0.94. Cool. So that's how much time of the period between year 2 and year 3 that it took you to be able to recoup your money. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight this here as well in our timeline. Just like that. Such that if we were to kind of highlight how much of your 2 to year 3 it took us? Well, it probably took us this much, right? It took us 0.94. It took us 94% of year 2 to be able to recoup our money. And it took us 100% of year 1, 100% year 2. It's another way to look at it, all right? Such that your payback period will be equal. Okay. Simple. I'm gonna make it a little bit cuter just for my own well-being. Okay, just like that. To zoom in a little bit, I'm gonna write this being as simple payback period. So I'm gonna like that is equal to 2.941176. All right, it's as easy as that. Notice how simple that was. It's actually a walk in the park. Now we can go ahead and look at our discounted payback period, which is going to be simple. Okay, it's going to be easy. It's going to be a walk in the park. You're going to find it simple. Okay, we're going to use, I don't know, a different color. Feeling unique right now. Let's go with tough decision. Let's go with green, and let's go with gray. So here our columns will be slightly different, right? Because now we're looking at our discounted cash flows. We're not looking at our cash flows, right? We're not looking at just the normal cash flows. We're looking at those cash flows discounted. So we're going to have discounted cash flows. We can go ahead and copy this. Notice how, by the way, I didn't have to go all the way to year 5. I didn't have to do that. So sometimes on an exam, you could work smart rather than work hard. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So we're going to work smart, not hard. I don't know if I should be saying that. Then we're going to look at the sum, once again, of our discounted cash flows. And here we're going to look at the balance. And once again, the balance is not something that you have to do, but notice how quick and easy it was for me. I just had to take this and divide it by this. Easy, simple, all right? So now we got to find our discounted cash flows. Once again, remember that we're discounting this at 10.28%. So am I going to take the time to do the whole little spiel that I showed before? No, like this should be easy for you now, okay? This should be simple. So we're going to have our discounted cash flow for year 1. I guess I'll use the darker red as being minus 250K. And the sum of our discounted cash flows at that point that we actually like made in terms of money, well, we don't need to put anything here, it's 0. Now 85K over 1.1028. I don't know why that was so hard for my brain. That's going to be equal to following. So our discounted cash flow, I'll put this in different green. This will be equal to 77. And I'm going to round these up a little bit. Of course, on an exam, I don't want you to do that. We're going to do it the right way. And then the sum, of course, will be equal to itself. Okay. Then after year 2, if we do the same amount divided by 10.28, we're going to have 69. Okay. 1, such that the sum of our cash flows will be equal to 146,568. At year 3, we're going to have 63, right? 376, such that the sum will be equal to 210, 44, and here we're going to have 57, 468, such that the sum will be equal to $267,000. So once again, this should ring a bell to you because we quickly noticed that, all right, well, if we were to write the balance, but you notice here that we're able to go above our initial investment of $250,000. So you know that, well, what we're missing is essentially to find the answer is to look at how much we were missing after year 3 and then divide that by the total amount of money we made in year 4. So let's go ahead and highlight the balance at that specific year. I'll do it for you right here. So we knew that we were missing minus 39,000, $655.24. All right, starting that point in time. Okay. At the end of year 3, we're missing that much. And I hope that's clear. So then, it's a walk in the park. It's easy. All that you got to do is you'll take a random color like myself. And I guess we'll highlight this as well because it's important. And we'll even put this in a different color too, just so you really see what's going on. Is that here, we're going to deal with between year 3 and year 4. That's going to be our discounted cash flow payback period, or discount payback period, if you will. So now we could go all the way here, and we're going to go look at our balance. We're going to put that above our payment. That's going to be equal to, if I could do some quick math, that's going to be, what is our payment for essentially year 4? It's $57,468. That's, I guess, no, we're going to look at what's missing. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired. Then you put that above your payment. I guess we'll put our discounted payment. That's going to be equal to 57,468. I'll put the decimal points in this case, 0.77, such that we're going to get 0.69003.114. And therefore, if we were to look at our little table, what's awesome is that you realize that, okay, well, in this case, we're missing, about this much. We're missing about 69% of, we're using about 69% of year 3 to be able to recoup our money. You notice that we are between year 3 and year 4. Okay, that's awesome stuff. And that we would have 100%. So we would have 100% of year 1, 100% of year 2, 100% of year 3. Then between year 3 and year 4, we're going to take 69% of that. Such that if we look at our discounted payback period, am I going to get it? I never get it for shot. It's kind of a sad occurrence at this point. So we're going to look at our discounted payback period. We're going to have that be equal to 3.693. It's really as easy as that. Really as easy as that. Now, by the way, I'm a big fan of peer reviews. If you feel like there's a small mistake, let me know. I'm more than happy to check it out with you, okay? But notice how this question that could be a multiple choice in your final exam or even in one of your assessments, well, it wasn't hard. It wasn't difficult at all. All that we had to do was, you can use a timeline if you want to be able to visualize the question, but really the table was the only thing that we needed. You plug in your cash flows, you find the sum of your cash flows, you figure out, well, okay, when is the sum of my cash flows greater than my initial investment? Then you find the balance for the year right before. You divide that by the cash flow of the given year at which you surpassed your initial investment. That's one way to write it if you want to, but I think this is more of a rep thing, the more you do it. And that's why we're going to add another rep. That's why we're going to do it one more time to get a sense, a really good feeling of what to do with maybe a more complicated version of this question. I don't think it's very hard, but it'll be a more complicated version still, nonetheless. Okay. Yeah, let's go about it. By the way, one last thing I'd like to maybe note, and I'm sorry that I'm rubbing my nose. I'm just, I guess I'm a little sick. But what's really easy to check out here is that you don't always need to plug in every single bit of your of your table. You don't need to do that. Okay. Sometimes you can work smart, and that's exactly what I'm a big fan of. So for the last question, I know that it's going to be in a similar vein. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy. I'm going to copy this because I don't want to rewrite it and I want to be efficient for you guys. I don't want y'all to feel like I'm just doing the same thing again and again. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, move it right here. Right, and then I'm going to erase a few things. So you can take your time. You could decide to skip this, no worries. I'm just going to erase a little bit of the timeline such that you don't feel like we're wasting our time on, just formatting stuff. I should have probably done that for the second question as well. But, sometimes I'm a fool, if not most of the time. Not most of the time. Now, I'm not sure that this is going to go all the way to year 5, but for now, sorry about that. I guess I'm in French, we say a little bit frileux, and that's pretty much what I am right now. A little cold. It's cold, a little bit cold out there. So, yeah, let me just move this one last time. Then we're going to be on business. I guess I'm not in business just yet. Cool. Okay, amazing. Sorry for the delay. Now, this question, similar, easy. You probably already started, probably even skipped the last part. But what you want to understand is that this question is easy because now we're looking at Chai Designs once again, but we're looking at a project in Toronto. And what does that matter? But what's interesting with this set of cash flows is that we have an initial investment of 450K, but they have cash flows. This project has cash flows of 75 grand at the end of year 1. Okay. But this cash flow, well, it's going to grow by 5% a year. Okay. So it's growing by 5% a year until the end of year 6. And we want to know, that's going to be our mission, is what we're going to highlight in red. Well, what is the simple and discounted payback period of this project? Okay, we want to know that. If the firm's discount rate is equal to 10.28%. So in this case, it's very much the same thing. Okay, it's very much the same thing, but you need to account for that growth rate. So that's a little bit of a nuisance, an opportunity for you to make a mistake, unfortunately. But we're going to show you, I'm going to show you how to go about this, fairly easily, not too complicated. We're going to work through it together. So you know me, I'm a big fan of highlighting the stuff that we have. I just don't want to make a mistake. That's really the way I look at it. So we're going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to highlight the stuff once again, define them, such that it's easier for us to put it into our timeline and our table after. So CF0 equal to 450K. That's awesome news. All right. And then we know that our payment 1, if I go all the way here, payment 1 was equal to 75K. Now, I don't want students to think that, okay, well, I'm dealing with if you remember the flow chart from time value of money, so I have a few videos on that. I don't want you to think that, okay, well, I have clearly a growing annuity, so I should find a present value. No, you don't need to do that because we're in capital budgeting. All you want to do is figure out, well, at what point am I recouping my money? That's all that you need to do. So by using the present value method here, you're getting lost. All right, so it's always important to kind of find the context of the question. Now, I know for a fact, somebody would think about that. So that's why I wanted to, just put that out there. But our growth rate here is equal to 5%. So I can go ahead and write G equal to 5%. And then that's pretty much it. This is happening until year 6. That's awesome. So it's kind of straightforward. And then we have our discount rate that's equal to 10.28%. Okay. Is equal to 10.28%. So awesome stuff, very easy stuff, just defining a few points. And now we're going to place those few points onto our timeline. And I'm going to show you why it matters. In this case, it actually does matter a little bit. So let's zoom in. Let's put T0. I mean, at this point, it's easy. We know that T0 is equal to 450K. Awesome. We know that payment 1, right? What we're going to plug in here. We know that that's equal to 75K. Thing is, though, now we got to kind of account for the growth rate, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to do 75K times 1.05. In this case, to the power of 1. It's really as easy as that. And that's what you're going to plug in into your calculator when you want to find all of these different points. It's really as easy as that. So what you're going to do, and what I'm going to do here, is I'm going to kind of copy it such that it's showcasing the correct inputs. But it's important for you to understand that this is what we're going to do for every single year. The reason why I'm writing it like this is because it helps us. I don't know why in my mind I'm going to say it in French, but it helps us éviter des erreurs. It helps us avoid mistakes. So that's why I'm writing it in it's scientific notation or whatever. I don't even know if it's the scientific notation. I'm probably wrong there. Yeah, so now we have every single one of these cash flows. Now, you could go ahead and try to round them up one by one. It's probably going to be easier to use a table, but it's really up to you. What I would want you to do most probably is to just write them down one by one using your calculator, right? Plug them in, find the correct input. It's going to save you a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes. So that said, now that we're able to visualize it using our timeline, we're going to plug it in. We're going to make it easy for us. So in this case, business as usual, we're going to have here minus 450K. And I want to maximize on time. So I'm going to go like this, put minus 450K here as well. Just because you're going to see it anyways. Now I'm going to round up a little bit just because I don't want to zoom in too much. But we have 75K, right, as our cash flow for year 1, such that the sum of our cash flows starting year 1 will be 75K. The balance, we're not going to look at it too much for now. We're just going to play off intuition. In this case here, we're going to have 76,875, such that we're going to have 151,875 as the sum of our cash flows. We're going to have 78,796 right here, such that sum of our cash flows is 230,671. And notice that we're trying to surpass 450K. So we're going to have to do this for a little while. Let's do this for a little while. Just making sure that my stuff is good. But yeah, so we have 78. We have 80.766 through 11 or 38. So notice how we're still not passing our initial investment just yet, but it's okay. Sometimes we need to go about this. Here we're going to have 394 to 24. So look at that. We need to add another year. So we'll go ahead and do that. We could expand on these. This one's going to be fun because there's a small caveat. Epic. Cool. So now at year 6, what we're going to have is we're going to have another cash flow, right? That one's going to be let me see, let me do my quick math. So such that we finally get to 400. Okay, so now we can move on to our key takeaways, right? We notice that, all right, we're able to surpass our original investment at year 6. That's awesome. And we know that we have a sum of cash flows of 394,224 as of year 5, such that our balance at that point, if we were to write it down, our balance as of year 5, okay, what we're missing in this case is going to be 55,775.36. Okay, so that's what we're missing. That's our balance. Put a little minus sign here. So in other words, from the 84,855 that we made on year 6, $55,000 will be needed in order for us to be able to recoup our initial investment. In order for us to be able to say, hey, we made our money back. We're good. We found our payback period. Okay, so that's awesome stuff. Therefore, we can move right here and kind of solve for it. I guess I'm gonna go with another color, a funky one. We go with this. No, we're going with a new one. Go with orange. Why not? So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, and we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna do our balance. We're gonna put it over our payment for year 6. Yeah, this sounds about right to me. Such that if we remember our balance, we had 55,775.36. That's our balance. We know that our cash flow for year 6 equal to 84,855.62, such that we only need 0.65729.723 of that. Okay, so that's awesome. And what is this telling us? It's telling us that, yo, if you want to find your payback period, I guess we'll write our simple payback period. We're going to have that equaling 5.65729.7. Really, as easy as that. Okay. If we want to take a step back, we want to go on our timeline to kind of visualize what's going on. Well, it's telling us that we needed a little bit more than the half of year 5 to be able to recoup our money. It's really as easy as that. A little bit more than the half of that given year to be able to recoup our money. Okay, simple, easy, right? We took 65% of that year. Now, I'm going to do something funny because I'm a little bit lazy. I don't want to do every single one of these cash flows. So I'm going to run a quick little test on my screen. Oops. Doing a little test on my screen, so give me a second. Okay, you're going to see something interesting. So let me highlight something in the question. This could be a trick question that you see on your exam, and in this case, it was a trick question on my part. What I did is that we notice here that it takes us about 5.65 years to just get our money back if we don't discount it. But they're telling you that these cash flows will remain up until the end of year 6. There are no cash flows after. So what happens if we actually try to discount these cash flows one by one? Will we be able to recoup our money within those 6 years if we know that this project will only last 6 years? Well, the answer is no. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you all some that could help. Okay, check this out. So I'm going to just put something in. Just give me a sec. I'm sorry if it takes a little bit of time, but it'll be worth it. So don't judge my Excel skills, please, because this is something that I had to be quick just for this question. Here, we're going to find, so I've added something that could be useful. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to walk you through this exhibit. Oh, that's hilarious. So notice how we have the same table. We have years, cash flows, cumulative cash flows, so the sum of all those cash flows, the balance, and then you have the same answer that we had before, 5.65. It's pretty straightforward. But the thing is that you notice that, well, with our discounted cash flows, which are right here, you notice that our discounted cash flows will actually never surpass the project within those 6 years, such that your payback period will actually be, in this case, only never, because our project stops at 6 years, such that you'll never be able to pay back this project using the discounted payback period method, because at the end of year 6, your balance will be equal to, as you can see, $107,000. It's going to take you a few more years to be able to recoup the money. It'll take you at least 3 to 4 years, but within those years, you have no cash flows. All right. And for that reason, in this case, the simple payback period is okay. It's going to be 5.65 years, but the discounted payback period method will not work. Okay. So that's just a quick, perspective that if you had this on the exam, you would say, yo, for the discounted payback period, I ain't got none. I have nothing out there for you. Okay. So that said, what we did in this video is pretty awesome. We were able to look at 3 different payback period questions. We were able really to walk through them and make sense of why this matters. What is the methodology that we need here? What are the ways that I would want to break down this question if I were on an exam? How do I do this? Hopefully after this video, you feel equipped, that you understand the theory for the payback period, that you understand how to solve easy, medium, and ambiguous questions on an exam, and that you know how to take on the methods to do so. So, all this being said, I hope this helped you out. It's my pleasure to help, and that's why there are so many things for free. I mean, all of it is free on eastmyhouse.com or my YouTube channel, or just by looking up my stuff online, you'll be able to find something cool. So you're awesome. Don't stop. I believe that if a fool like me is able to do this, there's no reason why you're able to do it, right? You got this. There's so many resources out there. You use them to your advantage. Continue grinding. Follow the steps that I take. Try to make sense of it, right? Anyways, that said, hope this helped you out. I'll see you in another one.